Welcome to the CVC Insider series. Today, I am excited to have Fumiko, Director of the Venture Group at Mitsubishi Chemical Group. Fumiko, welcome.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. Very excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm going to start with the question I always start with, which is, please tell us about your journey into corporate venturing.
Sure. So I started my kind of background career as like researcher, and at that time that I was started as a molecular genetic researcher. So I'm bio background, but when I joined company, that I start with a chemical company. So during my working life, I have been in this whole time in the chemical industry. So and when I joined a chemical company called BASF, it's a German chemical company. Then I started as not as researcher, but I started as sales. There are several reasons for that, but the reason is simple that I was employed as a researcher, but soon after that, BASF sold this pharma business. So I had no place to go, so I started as sales, and I jumped into electronic industry as a salesperson. And then I changed to commodity sales, and then I changed to pharmaceutical, selling chemicals, chemistry into those three different markets. So that was quite a big change because I wanted to start be a researcher for my whole life, but I started sales and then I started new business development in different industries, and that became my backbone as my career. So then after like 7, 8 years in the sales position, I turned into corporate strategy group of BSF Japan, and then I met with BSF Venture Capital. So at that time, BSF Venture Capital was already 10 years old or so. BSF Venture Capital, I think, started 2001. And when I met that, it was 2008. Oh, it's 7 years old. So, and at that time, there is no like Japan or Korea representative. So I started as a Japan representative of BSF Venture Capital because I thought it can be a very interesting field. I didn't know anything about CVC, but it just sounds very interesting. So in 2008, just after this Lehman shock thing, so many CVC was kind of closing down CVC. That's where my career as CVC started. And then I worked for BSF Venture Capital for like 6 years, and then turned into a new business development job called BSF New Business. And that was a place to make a new business in a white space outside of the BSF business unit activity. And there I also work in Japan, but also in Silicon Valley, creating new business. And creating new business in white space means that you work with startups. So my network in the BSF Venture Capital worked very well in developing several projects. And then when I come back to Japan, there is some incident that I met with Mitsubishi Chemical, who is really going to start CVC and looking for somebody who has some experience in chemical field, but also doing CVC. So I decided to move into Mitsubishi Chemical. It was 2016 at that time, and then set up or establish the corporate venture arm and activity in this company. And since then, I'm kind of leading this activity. So it was a kind of long journey until here.
Very nice, thank you. And I will be asking how you started it and the design decisions you made, but let's double click on your early start, which is a researcher.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of discipline to venture capital, which is similar to the discipline of a researcher. Can you
Mhm.
tell us how your early start as a researcher is still
Mhm.
useful today?
Yes, sure. So I think actually one of the biggest or like as a motivation to work as CVC is that you can meet a lot of new innovation or new technology or new people who's developing those technology, and the love to technology is maybe a very strong motivation to continue doing this work. So I feel like starting as researcher and curiosity about like technology or innovation is being a very good fuel for my passion into CVC. So that is one thing that as my kind of like a my interest field was broad, so by starting from biology but also for chemistry and electronics. And so it's kind of like started as researcher but broadening up with a lot of field of technology, and always my curiosity as a researcher mindset helped me go through many different kind of innovation. So I think maybe one thing about interest but also about discipline, how to evaluate technology, how to also kind of feel have a touch of what is the stage of the development, what is kind of the risk associated with that, also what is kind of being the challenge from technology to like to go to like start doing some POC and then go to the larger scale and then go to the market. So you also can kind of have a sense of like a risk challenges in an early stage as a academic background, but then also as a business experience you have some sense or touch about what's going to be the risk and challenge in the later stage. So I think like combination of having those kind of experience as a business life or academic life will always help as a life of CVC.
Very nice. And then you did a pivot, like startups do pivots, which is moving from researcher to sales in electronics, which was also a different type of product. So can you talk about how that experience is still useful today for you as an investor?
Sure. So I think there is several kind of thing I can say about this pivot. So this pivot was not my wish. So it was kind of a forced wish. But when I started a very different field from academic in bioscience to sales in electronics, after I think 3 4 months, I start finding it very interesting and very much also a new learning, new challenges, new also um, kind of all the kind of new, how to say, like cultivation and findings. And I think this like whatever new challenge come up or pivot there are, I think you can find something fascinating in the new field, new the after the pivot. So I think one of the thing is that the mindset, uh, like have that experience, and always the pivot will have challenge but also open up a new world that which is usually also you find it very interesting and fascinating. So that it was, I think, helping me as a kind of investor in this startup. But also I think really, as just I mentioned, sales experience or business experience, understanding about the market, customer, what their usual kind of needs and risk and concerns or so. I think that was also helping me in kind of working with startup in electronics field, and then to different business like pharma is also very different, but also can have like a basic understanding about the market, industry, the wording, and yeah, what the industry is thinking most important. So those business experience, I think, was also very like kind of valuable for, or which I'm kind of still using it every day in the CBC or this role as a CBC.
Very nice. And then you were chosen to join BSF CVC, which was going on for 7 years. So maybe you could share a little story about how did you find out, or how did they find you? How did you get selected? Because many people in the audience are probably wondering I mean, these companies, they have a CVC, I wish to join. What was your
Yes.
story?
Yes, so I think currently many people know about CVC, and that's maybe for many people it's a very already established and interesting job. But at the time of 2008, I think nobody know about CVC in BSF Japan. So when it come that okay, BSF Venture Capital is looking for a person in Japan who can handle that as a Japan rep, actually nobody raised hand. It's
So it was an open,
It's open, yes, yes. Like most of the people at that time in Japan think that startup is a little bit more risky, like doing something quite different. It's a people who is different from us, and so I think many people is like not raising hand, thinking that's something like bring their career path to something not really in the mainstream.
mm,
So if you're in the business, you want to climb up a certain ladder. And I think CVC is not the career path that lead to the leadership or management or sales. So for many people, I think it's kind of a thing that bring you to a side path. So nobody was raising hand, and it's actually that they're looking for, I think, several months, and because it first come to the president office and I was in the president office, I was also kind of looking around for people, but then at last I thought that I why not I raise hand. So
no regrets. So tell me about the first year, because that was
mhm.
so new. No one in Japan could tell you about it. What it is that surprised you, and what did you learn from your first year?
Yes. So um, at that time, also, I didn't know anything about startup. So I was only working with large company in Japan, electronics, pharma, or commodity. It was all like established large corporates. And then I start going to the startup at that time, and I start to meet people I never met before. So the entrepreneurship in Japan at that time, I think, was also very unique, and I see many people that who is really great in technology but maybe not so kind of personality can fit in the startup. So yeah, I start to meet a lot of interesting people, and that was kind of broadening my eyes that the world is full of of- full of like many interesting people I never met, broadening my kind of perception about like uh, how how those like the new business is started, and also how those people that is incubating things to make a new innovation. But it's a very different kind of people that I thought at the beginning, and I think like every startup have a different thesis, different technology, and everybody want to change the world. And I don't know, but in corporate world, you don't meet those kind of people every day. So
Yes.
that was really fascinating.
Earlier, you mentioned you love technology.
Yes,
And clearly, you were meeting entrepreneurs in Japan who love technology.
yes,
How do you avoid this becoming too strong a bias where you fall in love with the technology, but you still need to assess the full startup potential?
yes, exactly. So I think I did several mistakes there, and I learned from that. There is several technology I think I fall in love. It was so fascinating. It seemed like changing breakthrough a lot of like challenges. It's lie there, but many times the success of startup is not only technology, as you know. It's about, of course, the management. It's about the timing. It's about the market. It's about many other things. Also, like the funding environment. So I think there is several deals that I fall in love with technology, but as a company, it they failed or they didn't go as they planned. So I started to learn very slowly, but that have to have the holistic view.
Mm. Well, I like the fact you're candid about having made mistakes, and we learn from mistakes. Is there one mistake in particular
Mhm.
that you think is useful for the audience to hear from you?
Yes. So um, maybe I can talk about one startup I like partnership. We didn't invest at the end, but we see a very great like a story together. So that was the time that when I was making new business development,
Mm.
and that was a new field for us, and the kind of like what the startup is doing was truly fascinating, and it seemed like it can change the some part of electronic industry. Their impact is so big, and also we could help some aspect of the technology to be go to market. So that was the one company that who is working on breaking through some semiconductor field, and their concept was brilliant. Their technology was also really, really innovative. That is a new field for us, but there are several points that we could help in simulating to make the scale up possible. So, kind of fit between the two company was really big. So we had a big project with that startup. We put like a several million of R&D money, but it turned out to be that at the end that like the concept is beautiful, the synergy was beautiful, the partnership was very good, but there is one thing that yield was not so good, and there is no place to go to the commercial world. But we couldn't find it out for maybe more than half a year because the CEO started not telling the truth to us.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So he was hiding, and he was keep saying that the result is good, and we keep putting a lot of resources to that project because we thought that the scale up and commercialization of that project is going to be like in 1 year time or 1 year and a half year time.
Mm.
But we start to get not the right result, and then when we found it out that the numbers that we shared or some data was shared was not correct. So we look into that and find out that commercialization was maybe another 5 years or so.
Mm.
So our learning at that time is that okay, we don't only listen to the words, but really see the the things, and also we see some things, but not the entire thing. So actually, also go to the place and talk with all the people in the company, and also try to learn that from several voices is really critical. So there is some learning that don't believe in the word or talking or so only, and always have different channel of knowing the truth.
I think it's very hard not to trust an entrepreneur we really want to support. So I think the different channel to information, I think, is a very good tip. Very, very good tip. So I want to double click one more point about your journey,
Mhm.
which is you learned about Mitsubishi looking to start a CVC.
Yes.
How did you volunteer? How did you apply? How
Mhm.
did you get through the process to be selected?
Yes, so that was also interesting one. When I come back to Japan from this assignment in US, I was not looking for a job actually, but I also heard from my network that was actually my colleague knowing a person, professor in UC Santa Barbara, who is actually a board member of Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings at that time. And from that channel, I know that Mitsubishi Chemical is looking for a person that who have this experience because wanted to set up like corporate venture activity. But there's not so many people who is doing CVC in chemical field, and
Yeah.
also Japanese. They wanted a Japanese person, so I think like they're having some challenge to find a person with experience. So from that network, I had a meeting, and I think it was really fast to kind of like be part of the Mitsubishi team. So after maybe 1 month after meeting with Mitsubishi Chemical, I decided to move on because also I wanted to contribute to Japanese CBC society, which is maybe lag behind from US or some, or at least like BSF had 20 years like CBC history, but many maybe company in Japan start to have CVC. And I thought, and also it's same maybe for TDK Ventures, but I thought that maybe can contribute more to also kind of grow the CVC market in Japan.
Very nice. I think you were the perfect candidate for Mitsubishi CVC. So can you tell us, because you founded it, you were the number one to start it, so you probably had a lot of influence in the design.
Mhm,
What type of good decision you made that came
mhm.
from your time in BSF CVC?
So I think actually there's a lot of things that maybe I copied of BSF Venture Capital
Which
because
is okay. It's
yes,
okay.
many thing was kind of already. I think also BSF Venture Capital did a lot of try and error. So there is some pivot in their activity because there's a learning as a CVC going through in to be mature. So I think there's several things that I employ, like how to source the deals and also how to make decision. So in many, I think Japanese company at that time, like the independent decision making for startup investment didn't exist. Maybe it exists in some company, but not very common. But that is very critical part that we have to have independent like decision making system for investment because it have to be fast and it have to be also flexible. So we didn't want it to go to the board meeting or executive meeting of Mitsubishi Chemical because that's kind of a half-year process. So independent decision making, advisory boards, and also how to source the deals and how to evaluate that. So like how to do the due diligence and so on. I think all the things that I kind of carry from the experience of the BSF Venture Capital. Mm, But one thing I think I newly invented into Mitsubishi Chemical is that we also have a POC budget to do POC with startup company that we are going to invest or which we already invested into. This is something that BSF Venture Capital, when I was there, didn't have, and
Mhm.
it's also sometimes slow down the collaboration or engagement with the business unit because they have different kind of mandate or different speed uh, with between the startup and the business unit. So investment fund we have, but also we prepared a POC fund or pool of money to do POC with startup. So this is something maybe newly created.
Okay, I have a lot to unpack, and I will ask about the POC budget, but first, the smart copy and paste from BSF. One is the investment decision to be independent, to be fast, to be flexible. Was it easy to convince Mitsubishi? Because I can imagine Mitsubishi, she is starting a CVC. Maybe the board members, the top management, they want to make decisions for investment. So how did you convince?
Very good question. It was indeed not so easy. And uh, I think Mitsubishi Chemical already started corporate venture activity by LP investment in 2012. So it's already has some kind of history, but it
Mhm.
always is just introducing startup company, try to match with business unit, try to do something, but there's not so many successful cases in the partnership. And of course, that we need to have like a scheme of investment to really kind of make this activity a mainstream of like innovation making in Mitsubishi Chemical. So we had like, I think, 2 years of preparation and kind of
Wow.
roadshow to all the kind of management in a higher level, middle management, board member. But I think I was lucky in the sense that first year I have a Japanese boss, but in the second year I have a U.S. American boss, and that person was hired from external as a chief innovation officer, and he came here to really do something new, different approach of making innovation. So under him there was a digital transformation group and also a venture group, and at that time venture group didn't do investment, but I think I had a very great supporter to convince all the other management to have a fund to invest. And with like tagging with my boss together, I think we actually succeeded in like starting a smaller fund first, and that was started in 2018. And then we succeed in also kind of building up some successful cases. And after 3 years, that we started a much larger fund. So
Very nice.
step by step, yeah.
Yeah, step by step, which I think is a very good way for corporate VC. But you talk about fund, which means you probably had a fund which allowed for first check and also for follow investments.
Yes.
How did you think about it, and how did you convince that you needed reserve for follow-on investments?
Yes, but follow-on investment is something you have to do. So that was kind of first initial idea that there is a money needed for this much, and like maybe half of it or 60% is used for initial investment, but we always have to reserve a follow-on investment. So, and that is how we can really work in the startup ecosystem, like really align with other investor, align with the startup interest. So when we invest, we will like support until the end, and we really kind of value the like reputation because we also see a lot of cases that like reputation like matter a lot for the CBC activity. So we try to get support from our management by putting a lot of example together, and that was a thing that from the initial first fund that we already incorporated.
Very nice. And I think it's very important for reputation, but also to support the investment to do better. One more thing I wanted to unpack is you mentioned the advisory board. Can you tell us what is this advisory board and why it is so useful?
Yes. So actually, we at the time of we make this investment scheme, we have also created a new company called Diamond Edge Ventures in US. So the overseas investment, the execution is done by this subsidiary company. It's 100% subsidiary company. So and also like there's an independent scheme to make investment. So actually, we can do any investment, but the reason why we do CVC is that we want to open up a new opportunity or new option for the business. So that's kind of the goal for us. And advisory board is mainly consist by the innovation leader and also the business unit leaders and strategy. So technology, strategy, and business unit. So having advisory board to really kind of align and knowing about the deal and knowing about the startup and think about like supporting how to make a real like business out of that or business impact out of that was kind of crucial. So, and I think that was also we had the kind of maybe similar scheme in BSF, but that was very important for a company like Mitsubishi Chemical, who is not really having experience in CVC activity. We didn't want to be like a very isolated, a strange unit doing something, but we don't care from the headquarters. So we wanted to really kind of incorporate it into the mainstream strategy, that is something matter with the whole corporate strategy. So that was quite important. It's not actually advisory board having external member that maybe it's nice to have in the next steps, but it's more to get internal alignment with the strategy or the business unit or technology.
So maybe let's be a little concrete. How big is the advisory board? How
Mhm.
often do you meet with them? Does it change over time or it's the same?
Yes, so I think the member has changed, but it have been three members.
Mhm.
And because there's a change in organization, the member has changed, but usually the kind of the titles or the mission is, at least the mission of the advisory board is not changed. Um, and every time that we have investment, that there is an advisory board meeting, but that was kind of currently when we have investment theme that we have the advisory board meeting. So we are planning to have a quarterly advisory board meeting to start, but this is also like we are evolving, and we are planning to have more maybe kind of like regular interaction with the advisory boards.
Is there also an advantage where these advisory board members become your own champion inside Mitsubishi?
Yes and no. Sometimes, so sometimes that of course it become a champion, but sometimes also become like more like resistant. So it's really that we want to get their advice, and also like bring in more like a trigger to bring in a champion. uh,
Mm.
yes, so um, so far, I think there is several cases that advisory board themselves become a champion, but it's more the cases that they bring in somebody in the business unit or technology or some other unit to be a champion. So, and that's what kind of role that we are expected, because the board advisory board member is like they cannot really support daily engagement with the startup.
Very nice. And then the third thing you mentioned that you took away from your previous CVC is how to source and how to evaluate startups.
Mhm.
Can you give some concrete example of this best practice?
Okay, so I think that there's various source that CBC utilized, but before we really started this journey in Mitsubishi Chemical, it was only one LP investment, and
Mm.
that was it. So we started to be like still a little bit like deeper in the LP investment, but also more direct interaction with the startup via but we start also be a sponsor of incubator and also it's a incubator called Greentown Lab in Boston and Houston. They're having a great coverage and innovation hub for the startup ecosystem in that field. And that's also that one of the source we start to have. We start to register in the startup databases that we can actually scout or source from. And also we started several other services that venture capital or some なんだ、more like angels are doing.
Oh,
So,
business angel.
yes, yes, yes. So several sources that we newly started, but it's more that broadening the diversity of the deal flow, and also to kind of try to message out that this is what we are looking for, and this is what how we can help the startups. So yes, I think it's so. Before that, it's like we try to just get deal flow, but I think like building a network that we also can give, and also like it's both way that we message out, we get message in, we support the ecosystem, and also that like people come to us. And I think we also start a kind of like accelerator program, like a challenge program, and this is called corporate partnership program, CPP. And this is really that where we like really message out this is what how we see the world is going to be, and we can contribute this way, but we want to have a partner. Please come to us. So using this partnership network to really bring this message out to the startup ecosystem, and yeah, try to have this both way communication is something maybe started newly.
Very nice. So one thing I want to unpack, and I'm sure my colleague Gita, our portfolio program manager, is waiting for this. You mentioned you invented this POC budget.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
think it's so interesting. I have a sense of what it is, but maybe you can tell how you thought about it, how you convinced to do it, and then we will describe it afterwards.
Yes, sure. So I think this is maybe universal problem, but it's a very big problem in when I was kind of making a partnership or engagement project between startup and business unit. So there is a budget of yearly budget that is more strictly aligned, and they cannot use it for some other purpose, which just kind of jump in. So there is maybe very interesting startup. The business unit people want to work with the startup, but they don't have budget. And they say to the startup, okay, we will try to kind of plan a budget for next year. So please wait 8 months. And of course, startup will never wait for 8 months for that.
It's like a lifetime.
Yes, yes. So many projects stop there because of the timeline of getting the budget for POC will never kind of live up with the speed of the startup. So there we need even a small amount to start something. And there the idea of having this POC budget started. So we tried to kind of budget the really first step of the POC, and then with the result that can scheme a bigger POC, or we really can go to the joint development or joint partnership or so. But it's really to really start now, than wait for several months.
Very nice. And that budget is within the venture group, or you
Mhm.
need champion inside Mitsubishi to say, yes, let's activate the budget.
The good thing is that we can decide, and that's kind of the budget we wanted to have. Yes, it's not a very big amount, but we don't need anybody's approval. We can decide it that this is something that we need. This is something that we believe in. Then we can actually inject this POC budget.
Very nice.
And
And
very much recommend that you have a small amount of that, so you can drive kind of the partnership in a like startup speed.
very
Sorry.
nice. And this POC budget is once you've decided to invest, or sometimes you do the POC before you decide to invest.
We do both. So we sometimes do before investment, or like to do investment, you also want to clarify several things.
Mhm.
And this also come from this kind of the project failure that I mentioned, that you also want to see that how the technology work, or how the things work before the investment when you're not very sure. So we do that beforehand, but we also don't do POC and do investment and then do POC after the investment. So it's very flexible. We do both side. Yeah.
I think it's a golden nugget because if you do it before investment, you learn so much more about the project and you de-risk your investment. Once you've
Exactly.
invested, you can use that budget to actually accelerate the partnership.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Okay,
That's
this is
true.
a very good invention. So I think I'm going to recommend many people to watch this part of the interview. What is the drawback of the
Mhm.
POC budget? I mean, maybe can you talk about how many POC in a given 12 months do you do?
So we usually have a budget of like a six POC we can do, but many times it's not used up to six. So, but we can do around six POC, and if this is going to be increased, then also we are also planning to increase the POC budget. But currently we can run around six to yeah 8 POC or so, depends on the size of the POC. And the drawback is that um, sometimes the business unit people think is a easy money, and come to us saying that, okay, we want to do this thing, but they are not really serious to do that. They just want to try, and nothing happened after that, even positive result. And this is really something we want to avoid, because startup is really expect, the POC become positive. There is, okay, the next step of collaboration.
Yep.
But
Otherwise, it's a disappointment. It's like
yes,
you tease and then nothing.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and also we had maybe half like that kind of attitude, and we tried to make very sure that business unit having a really serious agenda, and that they're doing this not because it's easy money, but because that they want to accelerate.
I see. How do you assess that? How do you make sure there is real intent?
That's also a very good question, but um, like we have champions, and champion is the one that usually like we work together in the more working level. But many project is sometimes in a very still like a, how to say it, stealth mode. So it's not shared to like a higher management, or it just come up as a curiosity that they want to try something, but it doesn't have really alignment with the overall strategy. So we try to check that whether it's really aligned with the larger picture, and also somehow we try to check with the upper management that this is something that is really that something that you want to do. And if we check with several layers, we know that whether this is really a serious project, or is more like a spontaneous idea or curiosity based. Also, curiosity will sometimes turn into great projects, so we don't want to just eliminate that, but to just avoid to be easy money.
I want to double click on this. You just mentioned easy money, but at the end, you don't want to stop people from being curious if the curiosity can lead to a real new innovation project.
Yes, yes,
So I think part of it is to judge people, right? Both
yes,
internal and external.
yes, exactly, yes.
Okay. So that I think is very interesting, this POC budget. Can you give us a sense of how many times before investments you do a POC
Mhm.
and that leads to a better investment?
So there are several POC interesting that give a lot of insight of the company, and we decided not to invest.
Yes.
And I think that is also, a positive result as a POC. And I think there is like a kind of POC and investment started almost at the same time, but POC a little bit earlier, and have a kind of good indication it's not finished the POC, and we make investment. That's, I think, one case. Yes,
Okay.
but it's not so many. So, and there is a lot of POC we did after the investment, and I feel that it's really accelerate the partnership. So I think those POC really worked out well, um, to get also like, more business unit to be kind of like consider as a real option, and try
Yep.
to, yeah.
So it's a golden nugget because you mentioned it and I really like it. This POC budget helps you to decide not to invest. So
Correct.
for little amount of money, you actually avoid investing a bigger amount of money, which could probably not go anywhere. So this is actually a really good way to avoid wasting good investment money.
I think so, yes. And we can also get a lot of insight with POC, that not only about the technology readiness or, the feasibility, also the chemistry to work with that company. So it's not only the startup side, but also the business unit side. Many times, that business unit is not having the readiness or culture, or, the people to work with startup. And sometimes it turned out to be they have a very good chemistry. So it's both way, but I mean that not only about evaluating the technology, or the but it's more like also you can like test about the culture fit. So
Yep.
I think it's quite valuable.
So now, changing gear, you talked earlier about Japanese CVC were behind in the past, and maybe I'm biased, of course, from TDK Ventures, but I feel like the Japanese CVCs today are very advanced. They are
Yes.
very open-minded, they are very global.
Mhm.
Can you tell us about how you saw this journey of Japanese CVCs moving to
Mhm.
maturity?
Yes, so I think at the time of 2008, when I started BSF Venture Capital in Japan, um, there was like a several wave of CVC in Japan. So many electronic company had a CVC in Silicon Valley. They have a lot of activity, but I think at the Lehman Shock era, that many of them stopped doing CVC or a little bit before after the bubble of the IT or bubble of the bio なんだっ
Mm.
け clean tech bubble. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think, yeah, there was kind of limited number of CVC at that time. So we also wanted to promote CVC. So even we start like CVC forum or so together with the Japan Venture Capital Association. But now after like 10 years or more than 10 years, the CVC like membership of the Japan Venture Capital Association is now like I don't know like 150 or maybe closer to 200. I think it's really have a step change, and um, I don't know when I start seeing that, but like this last 5 years or so, it's really like a dramatical change.
Mm.
I think, of course, at that time there is a CVC on the finance company, like banks or insurance company. They already have a very big activity, but not really the the manufacturing company
Mm.
or so. I think also the like a pharmaceutical company had CVC for a longer time, but for like TDK or Mitsubishi Chemical or many kind of manufacturing company start to build the CBC and also like having a lot of successful cases.
Yep.
And I think also people are like learning each other. There is kind of good network in the CBC in Japan also that to learn and from like the peers, and I think also working very closely with the venture capital people. So I think the ecosystem is now really kind of developed and in a very good way. And currently also the government support is great. I think that it's really, really kind of the scene has changed around maybe 5, 6 years ago.
Very nice. Maybe one more question about Japan. Do you find your investment strategy different if it's investment in Japan versus investment outside Japan?
Actually, yes, I think it's a bit different. So, still like the terms or the way of investment or after the investment, I think is quite different. So,
Mm.
we have 80% still investment outside of Japan and only 20% in Japan at the moment. Um, and also, we sometimes lead around or followed around, but many times we take board seat or board observer seat and try to really do hands on and work with other investors in overseas. But I think the kind of this supporting system is a little bit different in Japan, and also like the terms or term sheet or so is different. So and the company that we are working in Japan, we have a very good relationship. So I think they are really successful uh, investment cases. But I think how the startup look at us is also very different. So we are working very closely in Japan actually, and having like they also respect us quite a lot and do something together. But I think in like overseas cases that we try to support the startup as more on the like growth of the company on the management side. While in Japan, we are trying to really maybe working more on the business alignment.
Hmm.
But it's a question, good question. I just wondering why it is different. Yeah, but I don't know. But it's different. The also size of investment is different so far. So um,
And so far, because it's bigger in Japan or smaller in Japan?
it's smaller in Japan, and maybe because there's a one deal that I found it quite interesting and quite different from like a global standard is that um, it's maybe not true for all the startup in Japan, but they treat the financial investor and corporate investor in a kind of different bucket.
Oh,
I'm not sure. Maybe this is maybe special case in Japan, but that was what I encountered. And what they accept from the financial investor and corporate investor, they just define very differently and also approach differently, separately. But in the case of overseas investment, that whether you're a corporate investor or like financial investor, it doesn't make difference.
yeah. And you mentioned being a board member, and you also are observer board member in other startups. What was your learnings the first few times you were a board member? What are the tips to the
Yes.
audience about what they should watch out for?
Yes. So uh, my experience or as a board member or board observer is not so long. I just started be board member and board observer like 1 year ago, and that was because like there's a people change in our organization, and the biggest expert in our team has kind of moved on, and then I took over several of his role. So that's how it happened, and that's why I feel like I was maybe not ready when I start doing that. So when I start joining the board meeting and also as a board or board observer, there's so many things I learned from other board members.
Mm,
Like there's like how they support the startup, and also there was a case. It is now open, but I become a board member of a company which went through M&A and just exit. Uh, in end of January, and it's already announced. And that was a quite an experience. So, be a board member or startup, which is kind of go through the M&A process. There's so many things that we kind of take care and also to align with the or the other board members and also with the startup management, how they are going to continue on the new companies. And so there's I feel like I could contribute, enough for that successful exit. Uh, but there's kind of very different view from just being a investor. So really think about like to be representing all the other shareholders was just a little bit different kind of mindset and view of being just representing the benefit of your company.
very interesting, and congratulations on the exit.
Thank you. Yes, yes. That was
So,
yes,
so we
very
have 3
impressive.
minutes left. So I want
Oh,
to give you a chance to talk about what's next for you. What
yes.
type of investments are you looking at in the next 12 months?
Thank you very much. So we now having a very different change in our company, our mothership company, and we are going to transition into specialty material company. And
Okay.
the kind of the goal is carbon neutrality. And we
Mhm.
want to solve, there's a lot of things that a material company or chemical company can help to transition into carbon neutrality. So one of our target is to really look into a new innovation to make circular economy or carbon neutral possible. So like we are looking to like a bio-based solution, we are looking to recycle, we are looking to like all the circular economy, including digital technology like blockchain traceability, um, LCA, and so on. Another like big pillar is that we are more kind of like building our position as electronic material supplier. So like, but we are kind of not perfect at all, and we are looking for partnership with a startup company in that field. So these two area, carbon neutrality solution, climate change solution, and also electronic like semiconductors and like next generation communications, and those new technology open up our next generation like society is something that we are looking for.
It's a very nice range of topics. So for the entrepreneurs who are listening, you mentioned you can lead or you can follow rounds. You talked about the topics. What is a typical check size that you would typically invest?
Yes, so typically, so we are kind of actually not setting like we are not limited, but the kind of usual size is 0.5 to 5 million, and the lifetime investment of 10 to 15. So I think we are flexible enough to support startup company that we are working together. We are also stage agnostic, so we can do from seed until like a pre-IPO, but of course it depends on the partnership and also the industry.
Okay. There's a lot similar with TDK Ventures. We're
Yes.
more early stage, but check size and amount very, very similar. Fumiko, I really want to thank you for your time today and for being so candid and sharing your journey and sharing the mistakes, as well as a really good idea about the POC budget. I think that was one of the golden nuggets of today. So thank you very much, Fumiko.
Thank you very much. It was so wonderful to be part of this.
Thank you.